Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of the MI podcast. If you have not been to the MI podcast earlier, we are a podcast that discusses all topics marketing and media. So if you work in marketing or media or you aspire to work in this particular field, this will be an interesting podcast for you. So I have done an earlier podcast regarding the beauty industry where we were more focusing on Instagram strategy. But coming to this particular podcast, we will cover a lot more about it. We are like a holistic view in terms of the content creation and a general marketing strategy if you are in the beauty industry. Why we are choosing this topic within the beauty industry? Within India, we have seen over the last 4 to 5 years, so many D2C brands have come up in beauty, and companies who are like wholesome, they have organically grown on Instagram itself. So this is an interesting topic, like, because in terms of accessibility, person who wants to start their brand or is in the beauty influencing space, what kind of content to create, how to be more brand friendly. We will have a lot of different topics will be interesting to look into. So to discuss this, I have with me Khanak. Hi Khanak, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm also doing good. So Khanak, a little bit to the audience, if you could share about your background, and you're part of Tata CLiQ, right? So
Yeah.
how did you get to that? So like we'll start off like where all you have studied and then also your work portfolio.
Okay, so I'm going to give everybody the whole story. Hi, my name's Khanak Mehta. I am currently an assistant content manager at Tata CLiQ and Tata CLiQ Palette as well. As of recently, we did just launch our beauty app as well. My focus is mainly, I work in marketing, mainly in creative and content, and my focus is between marketing and editorial at the moment, I'd say. In terms of where I've started, I've always just had this incredible passion for fashion and beauty. I've grown up spending hours reading like glossy magazines, creating art. I've always loved playing with color. And I even went for like art classes for like 10 years of my life, right? So I feel like it was a very natural sort of move for me to like turn my face into my canvas. And around the age of 16, 17 is when I started experimenting with makeup. I started really watching a lot of beauty influencers, getting into makeup, skincare, doing my hair. And then I think that's when I decided that I wanted to sort of work in this industry. A big part of my college years was spent figuring out how I can make money while still being creative, because I think as Indian kids we're always grown up with that mentality of, oh, you must have a stable income, but I never wanted to let go of my creative side. And for me it was always important that no 2 days in my job are always the same, which is how I landed on marketing.
So you in terms of your born and brought up where exactly?
I'm brought up in Delhi.
So
Yes.
it was like the fashion, it's like a fashion capital also. So like
Yeah.
a lot of the, all the fashion brands, major brands, that's where the business happens there.
Yeah, a lot
And
of
also people are very conscious, fashion conscious there more. I think the maximum in all over India.
Absolutely. I feel like especially during the winter when you walk down the streets of Delhi, you'll see what street style really is. It's absolutely incredible, and it's something that continually keeps inspiring. And then also Delhi, you've got Jaipur right there. So much, hand block, hand woven, handicrafts, like that sort of merges. And then Delhi again is just a city of just so much culture, so that's something that's very, very inspiring. So yeah, that's where I brought up, and I was brought up, and I do think that played a very big influence in where I've ended up now in my career. So for my bachelor's, I have a bachelor's of arts in journalism, mass communication. What I really enjoyed about my course is that a lot of communication courses have a very specific focus on print media. I think print media is still so incredibly important, but we moved into the digital age. What I really like about my course is that there was one semester on print media, and that was it. We had a semester on digital advertising, radio, PR, TV. So I've sort of had the chance to dip my toes into almost everything. And that's when I was like, I definitely want to be writing about beauty. I want to be like a curator of culture. I want to be maybe like a beauty editor. That's where my brain was sort of at when I graduated college.
So your like the decision to get into you're doing the journalism in graduation. Where did that decision stem from?
I've always been a writer. Reading and writing are two of my greatest passions. I'm a very creative individual by heart. reading, writing, art, music. I do a little bit of everything.
So that was like in
so-
your growing up years.
Yeah.
You're someone like used to read a lot, then drawings, paintings.
So
And
writing is something that's very natural to me. So I wanted to somehow incorporate that into my everyday life and my job. So that's how I landed on it. For me, it was like, okay, like beauty marketing. That's like the perfect mix of like your job that you're going to office for, but that's also something that's so fun and creative. Just marketing in general as well. I think it's something that no 2 days are the same, which is, like I said, that's what I wanted my job to be like.
That's right. So your professional journey, so where did it start? Sorry, you did a post-graduation after
Yeah,
that?
I did. Basically, I finished my Bachelor of Arts. Then I started working. I started by interning at Lime Road. I had, I think, 2-3 internships. So I interned at Lime Road, I interned at NDTV, I interned at Harper's Bazaar Bride, that's print magazine. So I had mostly like editorial internships, after which I took up my first job, which was at a digital marketing agency, an agency named Social Panga in Gurgaon. So I was there for a bit, and I had joined again in the more content.
I think you worked for a lot of brand names, like what I'm seeing even now.
Yeah. So yes.
That is also one thing you can share, like you getting to these and cracking like these interviews of them will be something interesting. Like any tips you have, like because you have cracked multiple like through internship, and then the earlier jobs you have, and now like. Anything you want to share in that, like where you do, because in these big companies it's like a lot of people apply, even getting shortlisted is a big thing, and then very competitive in the interview process. So anything you want to share, how you cracked that or how you got
I think marketing as an industry is something that this is something I say about agencies as well. Marketing is something that you learn on the job. You can know all your principles, you can know all your case studies, which is great, and that's good to know, to understand how people think and how your predecessors have thought. But I think marketing is something that you do and learn, and I think you need to have an interest in it, and you need to think strategically in a certain way. All my interviews, because I'm in a I'm in a more creative role, my skills are on paper. I'm very proficient in X, Y, and Z. I can say that I've done this, I've pitched to these brands. Okay, great. All my interviews, I think the reason that I cracked them, or I shone like brighter than the rest, is because I spoke very passionately about things that are relevant to it. For example, in my first interview for agencies, they didn't want to know, what course I had done or have I ever written like a press release. They asked me what my favorite campaigns are. They asked me why I thought they worked. They asked me what's the impact that they had on me. When I was interviewing at Tata CLiQ, I was interviewing for a beauty specific role. Again, who ended up being my future manager, she didn't ask me like, do you have shoot experience, do you do this, do you that. All of this you just learn like on the go. That's what I feel. She asked me what my favorite beauty brands are, and why I think that their marketing worked, and I went on and on about it for like 40 minutes. But she could see that I had an interest in it, and that I could think a certain way, and I had that strategic thinking where I could think about like, okay, a brand did this, why did they do this, and this is why it worked. So I think just having an interest.
They gave you the example, or you were prepared with certain examples to give?
I was prepared in the sense that I'm somebody who consumes beauty like her morning coffee. Like, I don't just do it because of my job. My Instagram feed is actually full of like beauty brands and influencers and accounts because I just love it that much. I'm just that passionate about it.
That's right. So you're aware of it's like nothing is a surprise for you. Like you'll know these campaigns have happened.
Yeah.
And you'll know them why they are working. Like you'll have something obviously to share.
So of course I had content tests, etc. and all, which are also important because you have to understand how the person thinks and writes. But I think what's important is to have that interest. You can't make somebody have an interest in something, right? You can teach them a certain skill. You can write and I can write. But I think when I genuinely am passionate about something, I have an interest in that topic, I might write better than you. That's just a fact of life.
That's right. And that it's like an X factor within an interview where the person is kind of aware that this person knows, like within a few answers when you give it, that this is someone who is consuming a lot of this and is also aware of the whole process, how it works.
Yeah.
So
that's not to say I think that you can't be a hard worker and get ahead in life. I know a lot of people who know nothing about the industries that they were in initially, but they
but the effort for you is there because you are consuming. So it's like
But you do get to gauge a person's
Yeah.
interest within a few questions. Yeah, it's actually very hard
That's
to
right.
like fake it in an interview when you're talking about
That's right.
something
That's
like
right.
that.
Structured thinking, I think, is something which, like, we people, talk about also when they are saying how to crack interviews. Like, you should have a kind of a structured way of speaking also,
Yeah.
and to the point. Like, the giveaway for someone is like when they are like beating about the bush, going from point
Yeah.
A to D, and like
And
so.
I think that's actually a
Yeah.
really big part of it, especially if you're somebody who like is trying to interview at a PR firm, for example. I mean, I can ask you a question about your hobbies. That really doesn't matter to me, right? As your manager, what you
Yeah.
do in your free time. I think what I'm seeing is how you answer, how confident you are, how you can, go about your answer in a very, like you said, a very structured manner and make sense. Because you're going to be talking to a lot of PR reps. You're going to be put, on the spot a lot when you're having business conversations. So that's actually it. No one really wants to know about your hobbies. They want to know how you talk, how you present yourself. So that also matters.
That's right. Within the beauty industry, what would you say? Because I think, like what you said, let's be honest, like 80% of girls will want to get into that kind of, like, maybe creating content, beauty related content, or getting into a brand which is beauty related. So, what do you feel like it sets you apart to actually get it? Like, it's like an aspiration, like if someone wants to be an actor or a singer and professionally, but actually getting there is a different thing. Like, what has to be the intrinsic, are there certain qualities in you which are there also?
I don't think it's 80% of girls. I think it's like the I think the beauty and fashion industry has evolved to include people of all genders. And I think while a lot of the focus does lie more on content creation and editorial, there's so many other aspects to marketing and creating a brand that so many people are a part of as well. I'm not quite sure what sets me apart. I think I'm just somebody who's I've grown up with working parents. The importance of working hard was instilled into me. It was always told to me that you do whatever you want, do whatever you're interested in, but always work hard. I've seen my parents working hard, so that's something that's been there. So I wouldn't
They have
even
had
say
a
it's
like
about
a corporate background or business background?
both. My father is a businessman and my mother has a corporate background.
Okay, so you get
I've actually,
both.
yeah, so I've experienced both worlds. So for me,
That's
it was because that's why I said the bit about being hardworking. Because my mother is actually, she's my biggest inspiration when it comes to my career. And my mother is somebody who works in the travel industry. So but she worked really hard. She learned all there was to learn, and she's moved ahead so much in life. So that's why I said that bit about being hardworking. I think the flip side is you can have an interest, but an interest will only also get you so far. I can sit and talk about beauty, but I need to be able to also have the skills and the hard work and that mindset to make it.
That's right.
And a lot of it, I think, is also just, I do have to mention, I think a bit of it is luck, a lot of it is privilege also. A lot of people can get somewhere through connections, contacts, etc., etc. So that's something that we have to keep in mind when we see successful people, because a lot of them do come from privilege, and I think that's important to talk about that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that has to be identified. Like, you cannot put, sometimes people, put so much pressure on themselves, or they look down, then you look somebody like a superior, oh, he's made it and all that. And then also, they, a bit cranky about, like, they'll put, oh, he had a privilege or something like that. So it's something to take it. Obviously, someone's life, how it turned out, like, I think you should learn from it. Like, actually, it'll be a destiny, there's nothing, like, it'll just go along. But I think what you can learn the positives from that person.
Learn the positives, and I think be open about your privilege and help others in any other way that you can.
That's right.
If you're at the top somewhere and you know that you went to one of the best schools, you went to one of the best colleges, you had your interview set up for you, help other people who are trying to make
also,
it.
like, if you are in a situation that
it's important
to give back also, always, you are always conscious of that, and you will help people also. You'll be conscious, okay, I have done it, so, like, this is what worked for me, and you are kind of helping them also come up, like, that's how we grow. So I think also for you, I think it's attention to detail that you do. I think that is also something which people can learn from, where when you maybe in the interview process, or like the way you are speaking, that is apparent that you have done. Because like, I was having a conversation, like, once I was like freelancing, so there was, I think, some rich businessman, he was like had a big restaurant. So, like, within the conversation, he was saying, like, this kind of thing even my son is doing, like Instagram, and there are other things. But then obviously I told him that consuming is one thing and
Doing it
actually
is
doing
something
it
else.
different and delivering. So creating content is fine, but then now we are looking at content distribution, like how many organic views you get, for example. So that is a skill, right? Like just because
There's
you
a
are
difference
a
between creating and creating well.
consuming,
Yeah.
it's like, and you're talking about it,
Yeah.
that's fine. Like how are you kind of executing? That is where the proof is in the pudding.
Absolutely.
So, like I've done some workshops where I've advised guys, like obviously when you go up to the interview, there has to be a lot of background work. So try to like have, like in content, create your own content and then try to grow that.
Yeah.
You know, like that, because that is then something visible. So like when you have it in your resume that, okay, I have this particular channel of mine, and it'll be really great if it's in the same TG as the company
Yeah.
you're going to.
Of course, you can
So,
show them
yeah.
how you built your own personal brand
So
for
the-
their target
yeah.
audience and how you can actually do it. You put
That's
that into
right.
action.
So like the person who's hiring will think, okay, so this guy has, with X amount, he's able to get this much, so I can give him a budget of 100X, and he can really, grow my brand within that, because you
Yeah.
have proved it at a smaller level.
Yeah.
And that is in general in a career, you have to keep proving you
Yeah.
and
I
within the
think
stages.
another very important thing is just a willingness to learn. I think I ended up on my first day in agency life. I did not know what a content bucket was. Okay, I walked into office. I was told that we have to work on a pitch for a brand, and I was assigned content buckets. Do not know what a content bucket is, but eventually I learned. And I think it's very important that you're open to learning. We can all have aspirations. Like I said,
Yeah.
for me it was like, okay, I want to work in beauty and I want to write. You can get very stuck on wanting to get somewhere a certain way and wanting to be a certain thing. But it's important that you never know where life takes you and where your career takes you. You can actually end up doing something that you might be good at that you did not even realize earlier. But you can miss out on that if you didn't give it a chance, if you're too, set in your ways. And maybe to get to point A, instead of going like B to A, you might go B, C, D, make a turn to E, and then you come to A.
That's right.
So that can also happen. So I think it's very important to be open to just doing new things and trying new things. Of course, have a very strong vision of where you want. Good to have a 5-year goal, but don't be so stuck on that 5-year goal that you forget all the other great opportunities that are coming your way.
That's right, that's right. Yeah, I feel even like in my content journey, even the people who come down to the podcast and all that is been there. They are open to exploring new things, and obviously many who have done the podcast with me have been there first. So they have they are not like in content creator space maybe all full time or something, but still they feel this is a thing coming up, and if I have an experience in it, why not?
And if they do it and then they realize, hey, I'm actually great on
Good
camera,
enough.
I can create a personal brand.
That's
When
right.
I joined Tata CLiQ, I was starting to create also content as an in-house influencer, which is how I realized that I think I'm pretty good on camera as well. Which is how I started building my own personal brand on Instagram. Now I feel like if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have been as confident as I am on camera today.
That's it.
So then going back to agency,
Yes,
I joined Social Panga. I joined there for a few months. Again, it was more of a content oriented role. I think that's where I learned the hows, whys and whats of marketing and digital marketing specifically. After that, I moved on to my next role. So I was a copywriter at another agency in Delhi. It's called VB Social. A large part of it was actually spent during the pandemic because that was around 2020 March. I just spent a few months there and then the pandemic hit. So I was working remote most of the time and I had a fair amount of free time on my hands because I was living at home, so I didn't have a lot of responsibilities. So then that's when I started actually doing
But then
my...
you are living at home, sometimes it's like if you're with your family, then it's lesser work, or how was it? Like, were you alone only and you're managing, like how was it for you at that time?
I mean, if you remember in the first few months, there was no help also at home.
That's
It was
right,
just
that's
your family members. So we were all equally taking up work.
That was was a unique situation.
Yeah, that was a unique situation. But then I am somebody who I'm very clear about the things I like to do and not like to do. So I was happy to pull my share of the work. But even then, even though there can be so many late nights in an agency, I still had a fair amount of time on my hands. So that's when I actually started tinkering around with creating content on Instagram. I used to post pictures of the makeup looks that I did, not reels. I don't think reels were really a thing for me at that time. And that's when I realized that, I really want to make use of the time that I have. So then I started, I signed up to do my MBA. So that's when I started doing it. So I was distance learning, as were all courses at that time, of course. So I have an MBA in marketing management as well. So that's when I started doing it. A year into my MBA, I transitioned into my role at Tata CLiQ. So I joined
So
there
was
as
it that like you did an internship and then you got a
no, so
placement offer or something? Like
no, I joined there as a beauty writer. So I interviewed for that role, and then as of recently, I've moved to being an assistant manager as well. So my first year of my MBA, I did alongside working in an agency. I think I could pull that off because it was the pandemic. I don't think I could have possibly juggled that while trying to maintain a social life or going out or other things that come with that. But yeah, and then the second year was while I was working at Tata CLiQ.
So, like in terms of you were focused in your work, because like sometimes that can be there. Like even when like we are doing MBA, there are a lot of distractions. You do some projects or certain events and all, which is not required. If you have a mindset where in your case like you did multiple internships per se, and then also this particular opportunity, I think before you had pretty much cracked getting in full time in Tata before you passed out also, right? So yeah, that not many people can say that. So that's awesome. So Khanak, let's move to this part. Like obviously you mentioned like a little bit you do work as a beauty influencer like at a nano level, but like when you are involved with content in Tata, like what are you looking at when and how has this thing evolved, influencer marketing? Because it's a major chunk of, I know the budgets of beauty brands that they are investing in influencer marketing. So how do you go about it, and also how the evolution has happened in the last few years?
I think, well, my current role actually focuses more on editorial content and more marketing related content. Managing influencers, I feel, is more towards geared towards the social media aspect of it. But previously in my agency related roles, yes, I have completely managed accounts end to end. Of course, where I worked on everything from content creation to strategy to influencer marketing, little bit of account management thrown in, and some Canva designs as well. So I think that's one great thing about agencies, right? It lets you dip your toes into everything and just learn a bit of everything. But I think I have a very interesting perspective on influencer marketing simply because I've never worked on it from day one. I've been a consumer first, and then I've been a professional second. This is me talking about being 16 in my bedroom and watching makeup YouTubers, and then transitioning into a role where I handle or speak to and collaborate with those very makeup influencers, right? I think it's important to dive into the changing market trends. If we're talking your
That's
2016,
right.
2017.
There's also like a interesting thing.
Yeah.
So the ones you like as a marketer, if you're a fan of a certain influencer, you are kind of try to get them in for the particular brand. That can also happen. So I was just having a discussion with there was a group where there were marketers and content creators. So I said that this better. Both ends you should network with each other. Opportunities can come up like that also.
Yeah, absolutely. Networking is just so important in marketing. I've realized that. I mean, everybody thinks that I can be like a copywriter sitting in the corner, this, that, and it's all the PR people that have to network. No, that's how you get opportunities. And I feel like one very important bit about networking is I think we always focus on making new connections, which is good, but we never really maintain the existing connections. So I think that's very important. Your ex-colleagues, people you worked with in the past, it's nice to just drop in a message or something or send them an interesting post on LinkedIn, because you never really know when you might meet them. Yes, but it's also good to stay in touch.
That's it.
Yeah,
it can be like a I have kind of discussed it maybe in some session that I've had, that you have to have this has to be because you have so many contacts today. Maybe use this like a CRM kind of thing. Like how do you manage multiple relations? Like maybe have WhatsApp groups of common people, share it in the broadcast list. So everyone is like, it's like buying mind space. Like you should remember me for this thing, like for content. You
are your own account manager now.
That's right.
You are your own spokesperson and your own account manager. Like that's how you get roles a lot of the time, you do good work, and it's important for people to also remember that good work. So always you can occupy that
like because
space.
20 years back the professional network would be 10 people. Today might be you have to work at be in contact with say 100 people.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying message every day, but some kind of communication which is happening regularly.
And that's important because
that's what salespeople do actually. That is what they have to maintain, because it's a case where, like when I was in sales also, one sales person was telling me, like, if you don't interact at all with someone who you've sold to earlier, or you had a good meeting and it's a hot lead, and then it felt cold, it'll happen that when you phone, he'll also tell you things like, "Arey, abhi bechna hai to ye aap."
That you always want something.
You want to, you are this thing. So this nobody likes it, and it's a hardcore business setting. Even then, emotions are involved.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many emotions involved in purchase decisions, minor purchase decisions every day also that we don't look at. Another thing is also, it's very important because especially in today's interconnected world, I know we say the world is very big, there are billions of people, but actually some industries are very small. Everyone somehow ends up knowing somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. I've actually realized this. So it's very important to maintain your connections, because you never know what common link might come up, or what opportunity you could possibly grab onto.
That's right.
So moving to marketing then?
Yes. Marketing, what was your
about the influencer
trends. Bit, like how do you, what is like your profile within that?
So like I said, I worked with influencers in agencies as well. I think the large part of it was identifying the right influencers, those who resonate with the brand or the specific campaign, those who can not just be short-term but long-term collaborators as well, because I feel eventually you do it enough and you turn into the spokesperson of the brand, right? Whether you like it or not, people associate you with a certain brand. So just looking at that, metrics that came out of it, did something like that work, running ads based off of influencer content, etc. I think in terms of the changing trends, like you mentioned, I think it was your video content creation, especially on platforms like YouTube, when it comes to beauty specifically, was really booming in your 2010, 2012, 2014, like that era was a lot of big names in beauty came up, and that's when I also really started getting into it. So, I've seen influencers just plainly talking about products and doing plain get ready with me videos, etc., etc. Moving on to this really big boom of undisclosed affiliate marketing, because I feel like our advertising, or any global advertising standards as well, I think this boom was sort of unprecedented in a way. They've taken a lot of time to catch up rules and regulations to this space of marketing, digital marketing, influencer marketing, right? There are a lot of loopholes, I still feel, when it comes to the law. So I think there was this really...
In beauty, I think there is certain rules in place also, where because people are going to use, it's like food, like you are say consume it in beauty, you're applying it on your skin and all that. So certain outlandish claims cannot happen. Maybe in other industries it could work. So in beauty, actually, if you look at marketing around certain rules and regulations, I think alcohol companies have cracked surrogate marketing, right? We all associate a lot of brands with CDs and music festivals, when their main point of selling is not CDs and music festivals. Alcohol brands, I think lifestyle only, they target okay, this is the aspirational lifestyle. Everything
I think they definitely use that
only
to build on that whole lifestyle that they're selling, that aspect. They use all these other bits, but eventually the product, their main product, is something else completely, right? So I think those brands have completely cracked surrogate advertising and boosting brand awareness without getting in trouble. I think now there's a crackdown on disclosing paid partnerships in beauty a lot. So now we have that paid partnership feature on Instagram as well. They've introduced that even for stories. I think also customers are very aware. I think when it first started, your affiliate marketing really booming earlier, it's like you never really knew, are they making a commission off of this? If I click on this link and then I buy this product, will they still get a commission, etc., etc.? But customers now are just so much more aware. So as a best practice, I think it's good right now to make it very clear when you're working with influencers that you should disclose that it's an ad, it's sponsored, add your hashtags, add that paid partnership label. And avoid making very large claims, like you said. I think, there was a very short time period where there was a lot of clickbaity things that, there's this one foundation that you apply a swipe of it and suddenly all your, skin, your skin texture or any acne has disappeared. Skin texture is going to be there no matter what, right? That's just the reality of it. No makeup product can really fix that in just one swipe or one go. So I think there was a point where we all fell for that a little bit. Now, not so much. And I think, when you're still making these outlandish claims, more than getting in trouble with any legal authorities, you're losing the trust of your customers. I think it's important to not think of customers like they're dumb. They know what they're talking about. Everybody knows their ingredient labels. A lot of people know what they're talking about. A lot of people know what's good for them, what they want. They've tried everything from pharmacy to like drugstore to luxury. So don't talk to them like they don't know what they're talking about, and don't make outlandish claims. Be real about it. I think trust is that one really important currency now in marketing that's not there as much. However, I think for brands, this is a golden opportunity in a way as well, if you want to be very smart about it. Let's just take the example of clean beauty. Right? Clean beauty to you might mean something else, and to me, it might mean something else. The reason for that is that there is no specific definition that's set for clean beauty yet. So I, as a brand, might have 2-3 ingredients that are, I'm like, I'm against this, so I'm clean. But you might have 6 ingredients. Clean beauty,
is it a brand, actual brand?
It's a movement. It's a movement. There's a clean beauty movement. Okay. So then there are certain ingredients that you don't have, or that your formulas are free from. But because there's no set definition, I can have 3 ingredients that I don't have in my labels. I'm like, oh, I'm a clean brand. And then you can have 6 ingredients and you're like, oh, I'm a clean brand. But there's no set definition that defines either of us as clean. Now when I'm a customer and I'm Googling, I want to make the switch to clean beauty. To you, that maybe means natural. That for me, that means organic. That means sustainable. Right? There's so many keywords that are being thrown around, but you never really know what that means. So you can actually use that term however you want, and you can make your sales. But it's personally,
like a chemical-free kind of thing. Like what is actually everything else?
You don't know what it actually is because there's no definition. So you can actually throw that term around and make a lot of sales. But what's happening is, in the long run, as a brand marketer, you should really be using your best judgment. That's what I always encourage, because you will lose out on your customers. Thanks to the internet, they know their stuff. You should be open about your ingredient list, your percentages, what you are, if you're organic, if you're natural. What is organic and natural to you? Mention that as well. Don't just throw those words around, because it's not just a one-way conversation anymore. It's not just, here's a product, buy it. There's a two-way conversation happening. Customers are asking questions. If you don't respond on social media, even that's a red flag, right? Why have I asked this brand in their comment section what is the percentage of retinol in their serum? They haven't responded for 2 weeks. Or 3 people have asked this and they haven't responded. That's so shady. Why are they not responding? So I think it's important to keep that in mind.
And these terms, like they are thrown around in marketing, like a lot of FMCG and all that. Like if you have these 2-3 biscuits, you get this much fiber for the day. And like, for example, in food and in beauty, it will be like reduce visible spots by this much percentage and all that. So actually, what is the thing? Like they have to back it up with a report. How does this thing work?
You have to back it up with a report.
Yeah.
That's correct. But when I tell you that 90% of people saw that their lips were plumper after using this plumping lip balm, right? Do you know if my sample size was 10 people and that was 9 out of 10, or was it 90 out of 100? Do you know if I was only doing it on people of a certain ethnicity? Lip plumping is too much of a thing. But let's talk about like more personal care products like your hair oils or your serums. People of a certain skin type. Maybe you're like, I have this very nice hydrating serum and 90% of people thought their skin was more hydrated. Have you done it on oily skin? And have you seen that people felt that it was making their skin oilier? So you never really, you can tell me that 90% people felt this, but you don't know the sample size. You don't know what was the sampling, like the kind of sampling that they used. Have they sampled it over a long period of time? Maybe they just noted the results that they felt in the first go. Maybe 1 hour later, the skin actually felt dry and that was never noted. So then those are the questions that you need to ask or just be more cognizant of as a customer.
That's right. What do you feel like in terms of choosing an influencer today? What kind of best practice you follow?
So in terms of best practice, just going back to my earlier bit about that evolution in terms of transfer influencers, I feel like you had your affiliates and then you had the really big names that everybody wanted, your 100k plus followers or like 500k plus on YouTube. Now you have 1 million plus on Instagram. They had their moment. I think after a point, a lot of people got very, I don't want to say that word fed up, but in a way fed up of just being constantly pushed, the same products by the same influencers in the same style, because campaigns were so similar. Everybody would read off of a script, and for the customer, it almost becomes disingenuous, right? After a point. If I'm an influencer and I'm promoting one skincare brand one day, the next day, and I'm not talking about a difference in a brand that's more research backed versus an organic brand, right? That's still a difference in your USP or your marketing or your placement. I'm talking about one skincare brand that's organic, and then another skincare brand that's organic, and third skincare brand that's organic, and I have those 3 back-to-back videos. Now, what level of trust do I have with my audience, right? So I think because of that, I think a lot of people, including me, saw a very conscious shift in our content consumption towards micro and nano influencers. Not only is actually their engagement rate higher than your bigger influencers in a lot of the cases, but there's also so much more trust, right? Because you know that, or you feel at least, that they aren't constantly pushing the next new thing that comes to you. Maybe they have one sponsored post among 10, whereas your bigger influencer might have 8 sponsored posts among 10. Maybe neither of them are very honest about the product, or they are, whatever it is, but that just feels more honest, right? Because that person's very specific about the kind of brands that they want to collaborate with. They have a smaller audience, so you automatically feel, oh, of course they want to build their audience, they don't want to lie to me. And there are some very genuine influencers as well. I'm not trying to put down influencers here, but yeah, I feel like that's something that's changed. So trust and engagement are, like I said, those are the ultimate online currency right now for brand and influencers at the moment. I think when it comes to working with influencers, a lot of strategies now concentrate sometimes purely just on Instagram short form. I think, yes, that is a step forward and that is great, but I'm somebody who's a big believer in not just putting other platforms to the side. Tapped correctly, those platforms can bring you an incredible amount of sales. I think a lot of us are forgetting that written and audio, like even with podcasts, right, and long form is still very much alive. So I think it's important to support your influencer activities with like your advertorials in your magazines, because I know everybody's scrolling Instagram from tier 1 to tier whatever in India, right? But there are households where the radio is still on all day long, newspaper still comes, and those ads still matter, right? So you can't just focus completely on digital and influencer. You need to think of all your audience personas and then to make up for the rest. In terms of how you can collaborate with them, I feel the possibilities are quite endless. I think a lot of us...
So also we'll keep like within this, like when you talk about a marketing person in the beauty industry, how do you divide it? Like let's say if you are, let's take an example like a lipstick brand. In terms of division, like you will have a kind of campaign you do with a celebrity level influencer, nano level branded content. How does this whole thing, like in terms of just a general overview of the process?
I think it just depends on your product. So if I have a very luxury lipstick, let's say, I'm clearly advertising to a customer who has the money to buy it. Okay.
Luxury, like how would you define?
Luxury, like I would say, let's say I'll put the cost of 4,000 rupees on that one lipstick, right?
One lipstick, okay.
My customer is not trying to, take care of every little penny that they're spending. They're okay to spend on aesthetics. They're okay to spend on a certain brand name. Maybe I have some people who are devoted to my formula as well, genuinely. So when I'm looking at influencers, automatically I'll go to your Cat A influencers, which I think that definition can change according to what you think. But let's say 500K and above or 1 million and above. Let's say I will pick your Cat A influencers, or again, I think a deeper segmentation would be, am I a very like homegrown minimalist luxury brand? Then I can pick even a Cat C influencer, but somebody who has a very like luxurious aesthetic and a very engaged audience. Let's go with that one actually. I think that's a stronger example. So, a luxury homegrown brand with a very expensive lipstick. So maybe I look at your Cat C influencers or like your 30K.
So the luxury
50K.
brand will go with this like say 500K and above, like that would be...
I think it depends, because then that's maybe your first thing. You see, do you want to do Cat A, B, C, depending on their following. Then you look at the content. Does their content resonate with your brand? I mean, if I keep posting about like makeup products that cost between 500 and 1,000 every day, versus you that posts like gorgeous, really aesthetic luxury pictures, and even your lifestyle posts, are you at the best restaurants, etc. You clearly resonate more with the brand than I do, right? Because
we'll
right
keep,
now,
like an example we can keep for simplification for the audience. Like it's kind of like our opinion only, like, okay, what we are doing and something around that. So let's say, okay, so the luxury brand, we talk about the lipstick,
Yeah.
we say 100, a percentage full. How much you would invest in those influencer? For example, you mentioned the 500K. You said cat, sorry, what was
Cat
it?
A.
Cat A is
Yeah.
categorized there. Okay. So this would, what kind of content piece would you create and how much you are investing in that out of 100?
I think that depends on your strategy. A lot of the times, you will have a certain percentage left for your influencers, something for your shoot, something for your campaign, something
That's
for
right.
dissemination, ATL, BTL, everything. I think a lot of the times, a lot of brands directly directly approach influencers even for shoots, because sometimes they create better content than the brand can.
That's
Right? They have their own teams a lot of the time. So it all depends on what your approach and your content strategy is. It ties into that as well. I think the kind of content that you can create, the possibilities are really endless. I think you can collaborate via, there's affiliate marketing, there's your codes, and there's your links that you can buy from to get a certain discount.
But this level
They can
influencer would be a direct deal with their
Yeah.
management.
So it depends on what you want to do, right? So like I said, like they're paid partnerships. You can do a simple video with them for your launch, or you can do something long term. A lot of the times we think that influencers, they come into your last part of your strategy when it is boosting engagement or for your activations. A lot of the times we don't realize that influencers can actually be there from the beginning, right? What I mean by that is that it can even be long-term product promotions. You can even collaborate with the influencer to create a range of products. Like a lot of influencers now, they have collaborations with beauty brands. So they build off of their existing social following and their social capital to sell those products. So, and plus, because, that whole idea of parasocial relationships comes in. Parasocial relationships are, when you feel connected to an influencer and you know them, but they don't really know you, right? They just share their life online.
That's
so
in
you feel
every star and fan relationship.
Yeah, so you sometimes you're like, oh, I want to buy this because my favorite celebrity is in it, or like I like it. That celebrity does not know that you exist, but they work off of that concept of parasocial relationships to sell a product. That's how that works,
that's
right?
the whole industry.
So exactly. So now there are a lot of like brand collaborations where influencers are part of it from day one, from going behind the scenes to, hey, this is how I'm formulating this, or this is the color story I'm picking, then doing the actual launch, then doing their activations and so on and so forth. They can also create content on the actual brand handle. Instead of it being a collab post or a paid partnership, I can go on a brand's handle and create content for them that's coming from the brand.
When I was talking about the numbers also, when, with working with someone, I've observed these cosmetic brands, they are even say they will give say around 30 out of the 100. This I'm talking just directly what you're paying them, not production. I think it's like just like a selfie video or some just kit that they have done themselves. So say out of the 130 they are giving to this let's call it celebrity level, what for simpler this thing, and then the micro guys would get, which is like 50 to 100. You'll have say you're almost getting 50 out of that, and then after that you'll have the nano and the micro guys. That depends on how much ever the rest of the 20. So, and what they've shared with me, certain marketers who have directly worked in that, there's macro influencers in the beauty industry, they are getting a lot of sales on their e-commerce, so because they have that reach also, and that influence is also there. But celebrity a little bit, it's just like they're out of hand. They're more like just for the reaching out and a brand ambassador kind of thing.
Yeah, but that's another shift that I see, that because of the fact that now everybody has a smartphone, right, and a camera in their hands. Because like even 20 years back, it used to be that the only way that your face would be everywhere is if I was in Bollywood. That's it. There was no other way. But now everybody has the potential to be a celebrity because you have a camera in your hands. And I think that signals a very like interesting shift. I think I would say,
and like
as
many of the Bollywood heroines also, they got the movie because they're some major beauty brand. They have they had represented, and that's how they got discovered.
Even influencers
but today
are coming in movies.
It's not the case.
Yeah, and even influencers are coming in movies, and I think this is a part of a much larger conversation. But as somebody who's exactly a millennial Gen Z cusp, by the way, I fully believe that my generation, I think we have completely broken down the idea of what a celebrity is, and we've rebuilt it back into something that has so many possibilities. So that's there. Coming back to my other bit, actually talking about like your influencers, right? Now they can even be the spokesperson of your brand, right? Instead of like a celebrity as well. And you can even launch collections with them. You can even take them on brand trips. I mean, there's a lot of brands who take influencers on brand trips, and you know, it's not like they're talking about the product the entire time. They'll just create vlogs and they'll be like, oh, I'm here on this island and I'm having a great time. And then in the evening, we went to this party about this product. So your product is there, it's still there, but you know,
not in your face.
Yeah, it's not in your face, but the branding is there. It's all over. The colors match the brand colors. So there's smarter ways of doing it. So like influencer marketing, like I said, it should be a key part of both your organic and paid activities. Oftentimes you'll just use it to, you know, bump up your campaign and then you'll run that as an ad for a bit. But like I said, it can help build awareness as well. You can also ask influencers, or you know, just even cut and edit content in a way that's aligned more towards organic and paid. For example, a very simple thing would be organic is maybe I focus a lot on aesthetics. Paid is I want to see how this product does 1, 2, and 3, and that's it. So it's also important to be smart about the kind of content that you're creating with the influencers, but they definitely help bring in like that human touch to your content and that authenticity.
Let's come towards UGC. Like, how is it like within a strategy? Like, how do you execute? Like, it's okay to that users, they themselves or aspiring influencers, they'll come and showcase your brand in some different way of how they use it. But as a strategy wise, how is it you execute it?
I think UGC is a fantastic strategy, just because like I said, we've shifted from your larger influencers to your micro and nano influencers, and because everybody now has a smartphone in their hand, I think there's this sort of collective tiredness of seeing these perfectly filtered and airbrushed people living these lives that are way too aspirational. You know, there's aspirational and there's within reach aspirational. I think we now as a collective audience want within reach aspirational, which is why I have people who are everyday people like you and me popping up on my Reels page, on my Explore page. It is a get ready with me to go to office. This is me eating my lunch at office. This is me finishing work at 5 and going to Pilates, coming back home and having a shower, right? So I think that era of that, you know, 1 million followers, very aesthetic curated feed influencers gone, because I think people are craving real people who they can, you know, relate with. The average person is chronically online, and rather than just being shown that
the algorithms are pushing them.
That's absolutely.
What's happening.
Because that's what they're consuming, that's what they're engaging with, and that's what they want. They want regular people like you and me. But the thing is, there's something to be said about striking the balance between relatability and aspiration, right? So maybe I roll out of bed every day and I go to office. I'm just saying this as an example. I don't actually do this, but maybe I roll out of bed and I don't have set workout routine, and I'm like, okay, I'm having Maggie for dinner. For me, something that's relatable yet aspirational is like, you know, this lovely influencer, she's getting up, she's really putting in the effort to go to like office and look good. She comes back and wears a very cute workout set for Pilates, and she has like a Starbucks cup in hand, you know. I can get all those things, right? That's for me, it's like relatable. Now, if there's an influencer who's waking up on an island at, you know, 9 in the morning and going for a massage and then doing this and that, that's a bit too high for me to shoot at this moment in time, right?
Exactly.
So I think that is where UGC can help, because if you place your brand just right, I feel like, yeah, I want that, because I can have that actually, and it's not just like this aspirational thing. I think a brand that actually did this really well is Glossier. So there was this digital publication called Into the Gloss, and the brand started from there. So I feel like they really harness the power of digital and UGC to market their extremely minimal products. So Glossier's entire range is very, you know, your skincare first, makeup second. That's their entire philosophy. But it's also your skincare products are just charged up with the right amount of makeup. So instead of very heavy foundations, they're very, very lightweight skin tints or just concealers. Instead of, you know, like very heavy lip glosses or lipsticks. They'll have just these lovely tinted lip balms that you can put up on the go, right? And around 2018, I feel 2018, 2019, we saw this major shift in beauty. I'm talking in terms of the trend cycle here towards, we're done with the heavy glam and everything. And that's when the whole clean girl look started. And I feel like Glossy as a brand, I don't know if this was their market research or whatever, they really tapped into that with their products and their strategy. So what I think made it work is that it was mostly UGC, and instead of it was all these women and men and everybody being reposted of these happy fresh-faced women who woke up just looking great like a supermodel and just put on like this little tinted lip balm and they're good to go, versus an actual supermodel who's putting on that lip balm, which in my head is like, oh my god, that's automatically unachievable, right? So I can get the supermodel aesthetic, I cannot be a supermodel, if that makes sense. So because they relied mostly on UGC and then they had a very aesthetic branding and packaging, like that's when shelfies became a thing, which is like your beauty shelf pictures, and everybody was posting them with Glossier all over because it's that gorgeous millennial pink color packaging. And then you have like, these happy like women who have somehow perfect skin, perfect features, who woke up looking like this and just need a little tint to get through the day. So it's not hyper curated because they're reposting people like you and me, but it's still very pretty and aesthetic, which makes it relatable in a sense, right? And an aspiration that I
in
can
terms of
get.
like when you are showcasing the UGC content, like you mentioned, like the person like a supermodel, if you put them out in the content, then there's a little bit, like distancing that happens because it's unattainable or something like that. So do you think in the choice of the beauty brands also that they more regular girls, like not like 10 on 10 kind of thing, so they are choosing them also and they're highlighting them in the UGC.
Yeah, I think
so that is a bigger market, right? Because the 10 on 10 girl, how many girls have those beauty of features?
Because I feel like, I've grown up at this cusp bit of millennial and Gen Z, where I've grown up with your glossy magazines, but I've also grown up with your real influencers. And by growing up, I wanted to see women like me, who were mid-sized and a little awkwardly tall and, had features like me. It was a lot of... So I think brands have very cleverly made that shift because beauty is something that's so personal, right? A color will look different on your skin tone, my skin tone. I don't want to see this, gorgeous airbrush supermodel who's of possibly like, who's European descent, whatever. I don't want to see how the blush looks on her. I want to see how the brush looks on a brown, medium tone girl like me with a warm undertone. That's what I want. I think that you're not selling just glamour anymore. You need products that actually work, right? And again, I think that's really important. So UGC is something that's, I think, really taken over, and for good reason. I'm somebody who's a big fan of it. I love it. Yeah, and I think that's so important to your strategy, especially when it comes to beauty.
Okay, so Khanak, we've seen like the Instagram Reels last, I think 3-4 years. It was when TikTok was banned, and then Reels came out, and like even personally, and a lot of people in Gen Z, they are, I would say, 90% of the time is on those Reels only. Like compared to earlier, maybe it was on YouTube, and that is why on YouTube also now you have shorts and it's running the same. They're pushing it more. When you open YouTube, the shorts come up. So I'm not sure like how healthy it is. That is a different issue, but obviously the audience is there. So as a beauty brand, I would say they are one of the major guys who are putting out content, branded content, as well as ads on these reels and shorts. So just a take through of basically your technique of how do you create a strategy in these shorts and all short form video.
Great question. I think a lot of it I've answered in the past few questions as well about shifting from, like I said, your bigger influencers to smaller ones, having trust and authenticity at the forefront of your brand. We moved, of course, in specifically for beauty, from like your text or blog reviews to more visual content, just because beauty in and of itself is such a visual product and such a visual item. And it's based on like your look and your aesthetic. So I think there's less hyper curation, there's more reality, there's a rise of your everyday girl next door or person next door influencer as well. I think a lot of the times when it comes to paid content, yes, there are, I want like those 3 points on why it works and how it looks and great. But when it comes to organic strategy, I think there now needs to be a hook to the formula or to the packaging or something like that, because I think in the beauty industry, of course with technology there will be so many more new advancements and innovations, but in terms of the product range, it's almost exhausted.
Oversaturated.
Yeah, it is oversaturated. I think even formulas, there are like all kinds of formulas out there, and now we're just starting to create hybrids of different formulas. I think one bit where there is still so much for innovation is packaging. So interesting packaging is something that is now there. So for example, a brand recently came out with like these jelly lip and cheek tints, and for every Instagram video that I saw, every influencer was like playing with it, and they're like, oh my god, it's so soft, it's so squishy, it's so fun to play with. So that was like the main marketing hook of the products, because at this point I think customers, when it comes to any product, actually not just beauty, the fact that it will work is a given, because there are so many brands for everything, right? There's no that, oh, there's only one brand for salt and one brand for toothpaste anymore. There's so many options for everything. I want to know, like, it works, that's fine, but I want to know what's that extra add-on that it can bring for me, right?
Like you mentioned, this was like into something quirky.
Yeah, it was something different.
And secondly, I've observed the use case, where they directly get into the use case of this particular personas is the way it is, because maybe these two only is kind of getting their attention immediately.
Exactly, because now people's attention spans are so low, right? Like you have to have an interesting cover for your reel. You need to do something very crazy in the first shot. You'll either have like something very shocking and you'll be like, but then you move into what is an ordinary lipstick, for example. So I think there's a lot of clickbait that's still happening. But I think when it even comes to brands creating products, it's almost reversed. Now, because it's a given that it will work, right? You create a product keeping in mind marketing first. What will look good visually? What is something that will catch attention? And then you work backwards on your product creation and your formulation. I think long-term partnerships are now given focus over to short ones to create trust and not just have, every influencer just collaborating with every brand. I think in terms of beauty, there's like, an aesthetic for everything. There's your girl rot, there's your clean girl, there's your that girl, there's a strawberry girl makeup look, and so on and so forth. So there's an aesthetic for
Celebrity
everything.
looks.
Yeah, so I feel like as an industry we've moved from just pure looks to like aesthetics, because I feel like as a shift now everybody wants to feel like they're a part of something. Right? And this is how I find myself in this aesthetic, or I feel I want to be this aesthetic aspirationally. So I think that's how I feel like the brands and their content are more a mood board of an identity that you want to be a part of now, or like a collective or a movement. Like I said, Instagram forward content, you have to have an interesting hook or a visual, and I think now barely people even watch 30-second reels unless it's something very interesting. It's like first 2-3 seconds, okay, did I get the gist of it, moving on. You're very, very quick. Your content has to be thumb stopping for sure. But I think also
immediately it should take the attention in the first 2-3 seconds. Especially if it's in a reel.
Yeah, but I think the only drawback here is that there are certain people who are, your skintellectuals, or like people who are so into like food even, or any other industry. They actually want thumb stopping content, but they also want to know if something works or not. Like, okay, I got that fun visual and the hook, but it's important, like I said, to not then sideline other forms of content, like your long form videos on YouTube, for example, because as somebody who's so heavily into beauty, I can look beyond the marketing gimmick. I want to know, does this actually stay on all day? Does it actually, if you use the serum over a month, what results did it show you? I didn't want to see just the results in the first hour. Right? Anyone can show that. What's the longevity? So I often find myself looking for long form reviews on YouTube where somebody uses the product over a week, a month, or scrolling on Reddit because I want a genuine review as well. So it's important not sideline those other platforms as well.
That's right. We also talked about the different kind of content creators. So where you have a dermatologist and they are creating the short form content, like you all are shifting to the real people who are within an industry. So can you share something like that you worked with, or some examples of some people like that?
Yeah, we as a brand, and previously in my previous roles as well, we worked with experts to create content, especially when it fits well into your brand identity. For example, if your brand is very like we use research-backed skincare ingredients and all, better than even the founder who can just be some MBA pass out and has hired some cosmetic chemist, right? Or some influencer who does not know your bakuchiol from retinol.
Yeah.
You can have a dermatologist there being like, hey, this is what it is and this is why it works. So I think expert content is something that's also, experts are influencers in their own rights.
Yeah, they have,
the only difference is I used to go to the dermatologist person, she'd tell me to get this and I'd be like, okay, only difference is she's telling me now to get that on Instagram.
Yeah.
Right? So I think experts are now influencers in their own rights, and expert content definitely does have its own place in your marketing strategy, provided it aligns with your brand.
That's right. So, obviously, in your influencer strategy with the short form content, these guys are growing their channels, so they are important. Forget the part of it where they would have more influence, but now the audience also of them is increasing. Earlier, they were at a nano level, but now there would be dermatologists maybe who have worked with who are in 100K above category and have loads of engagement.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. Awesome. So let's look at Khanak, in terms of the storytelling aspect of it. How do you use that? This term is also kind of thrown. That I'm as a marketer today, I'm a storyteller. I try to put that out. In any interviews I give or and I'm interacting with people. So, but what is it exactly as a marketer? How do you use that storytelling ability in your content, and how does it convert into then traction basically?
I think for me, storytelling is definitely creating a very solid narrative or a brand identity over a period of time. That's what I would personally take it as. I think it definitely plays a very, very, very big role. According to a lot of trend reports, like Mintel, for example, being human in the age of AI is actually key global consumer trend for this year. So in the age of AI, we want that storytelling and that human aspect that still resonates with us. So it's important to have, strong brand stories or build your brand off of a certain value or ethic. For example, clean beauty or sustainability, right? Which is very great for the growing number of conscious consumers nowadays, because sustainability is a big one. Even in fashion, I see that there are so many thrift stores opening up on Instagram. There's so many people, your fashion influencers, they're not going for your big designers or taking you out shopping at malls. They're going to the street markets and thrifting. Thrifting has turned into something that people used to be turn their nose up at one point, to now it's cool, right? Or you can also even ride the wave of aesthetics, like I said, the clean girl aesthetic, and certain products are now even making a comeback. Certain products that were popular maybe even 10 years ago, 5 years ago, like Benefits Benetint or Clinique's Black Honey lipstick. Those are these almost their products. So I think it's important though to now show your CSR. I think CSR now, like I said, now it's a given that brands give you products that work. Now a lot of people, including myself, we want a brand that we can resonate with, or the ethics or the values, or something that I'm proud to tag on social media, right? Because people are aware of controversial brand owners, or is this brand really in hot water for something? So I want to be able to very proudly tag that brand or say that I'm using this product, right? So I think Mac's Viva Glam range, which actually came out, I believe it came out in 1994, in the 90s. It's so ahead of its time, but it was basically, it's their campaign. They have this range of products and the proceeds go to raise awareness for HIV/AIDS. So I think it's a beautiful example of marrying what is an iconic range of products, because MAC lipsticks are just the best, one of the best in my opinion, with very glam spokespersons for their campaigns, but also doing good, right? It's your CSR bit. I think at the end of the day, trends can come and go. You need to have reliable products, you need to have targeted advertising, you need to have smart business and CSR practices, and I think your brand will have a fair chance of staying around. I think the most important thing is to actually listen to your customer. A lot of times brands don't do that, and there are a few brands, smaller brands, that have now gained so much popularity simply because the customers commented, hi, we need a bigger shade range, and they introduced more shades. Charlotte Tilbury, her brand has this range of Pillow Talk. So I believe it started with a lip liner and a lipstick. Now there's a whole Pillow Talk range of products, like highlighters and blushes and so on. Same with Urban Decay, they had this Naked palette. Now this Naked 1, 2, 3, Smoky Heat, and this entire range again, right? So it's important to build upon what's working and give the customer more of what they want. Like I said, it's not a one-way conversation anymore, it's a two-way conversation.
That's right. So in storytelling also, there's, you're building a particular character and then
Yeah.
qualities of it, like people will
Like a mascot?
you vouch for
Yeah.
that particular, that's how you build the character. So in marketing parlance, I think that would be a persona. That
Yeah,
you,
a persona. You could even have a mascot, an actual mascot in
That's
some
right.
cases. But yeah, like your brand, you should. I think a very common exercise that we used to do in agency is if this brand was a person, what would they be like? You know, would they be like that wise, relative that you always go to for advice? Are they that cool young hip kid? So always, I think defining a brand as a person can not just help you get ideas to
like
humanize
if you
it,
talk
but
about the iconic, like the real beauty campaign in Dove,
Dove, yeah.
what do you feel like in terms of inception? What do you feel went into it? Like this is something, because it's something like where a beauty brand is talking about like inner beauty or something like that, which is not like it is selling outer beauty. So what do you feel like, which will be them pointers that okay, when we are thinking of campaigns, this is something which
I
we can
think
learn?
that is a brilliant example of one, marking that shift towards real people and authenticity, real women, real people being models. Two, I think as a beauty brand, I think customers are sick of all this being sold stuff. This, I think, ties into my idea of building that storytelling and that narrative. I think Dove showed us, they touched upon this bit about, like, is this beautiful or not beautiful, for example, for you, which is related to beauty, yes, but it's related to inner beauty. You're right, there's no real product selling there, but there's a reason that you and I remember that campaign because it hit so hard.
That's
right? And now, even when we're sitting here, we're talking about it, when we go into the supermarket, I'll see any other brand and I'll see Dove and I'll be like, oh yeah, Dove had that campaign. So it gets you that top of mind recall. It still has that mind space without directly even talking about the product. So I think that was a very, very smart campaign, and I think something that a lot of us need to do is move away from direct selling and actually spend some time and
So like
budgets on focusing on
feature-based
campaigns.
and product quality, obviously we all marketers have gone beyond that, but this is a kind of a case of totally out of the box. Like that is also a different kind of thinking.
Yeah.
Definitely their marketing teams were some kind of activity or some kind of way they were conceptualizing, which was kind of, that is way they got to that, because something diametrically opposite. And I think then many brands followed suit, in that where they were talking about a lot of women empowerment things. So happened also in a lot of brands. So I mean, I feel out of the box. But what do you feel like in terms of, when it's easy to say that, but what actually goes into it, like when you're conceptualizing such stuff? And you're saying just out of the box thing, but how do you get to the out of?
I think you need data and you need to do audience research. I think a lot of the times you're just like, oh, we'll market this product this way and we'll have this lovely glamorous shot and we've moved on. I think the smartest marketing campaigns come out of research. I think one of my favorite campaigns is Stay Freeze. Okay, one of my favorite campaigns was Stay Freeze. I think Project Free Period. So, I mean, you'd go around marketing a sanitary napkin to everybody and be like, oh yeah, this is how, what you can use during your period, which is fine. But what was so interesting to me is that the campaign starts off, or the ad film actually starts off with women saying that, oh, I don't like it or don't enjoy the days when my period is there. Of course, I can't do this, I don't want to do that, blah, blah, blah. And then they speak to sex workers and, they're like, I love it because I get time off, I get to spend time with my family. And that is something that even I had never even thought of it this way. That to me, something that I'd never look forward to every month is something that somebody looks forward to. And then, they, in those 2, 3, 4 days of their period, they teach sex workers, I think, like these skills that with which they can, use to like monetize later or, create things and sell them, etc. So I thought that was lovely. So now that's in and of itself, it's a CSR campaign. It's not actually selling any product right there. The insight is just so incredible because it's something that you've never thought of. Right? That's still related to the product, but it's something that you would not think of. And because of that, that brand is permanently in my head.
That's it.
So I think that's how you do it smartly.
Yeah. Sustainability also is something which is being used quite a bit, and the way they treat their workers and all that, that is also coming out in the marketing and also, that is also there. Awesome. So, Khanak, e-commerce channels like, I think, all the brands, they have to optimize their particular profile, their products there, so that it comes higher up in the search, and then obviously that leads to more sales. So you, as you know, creating content for these e-commerce channels, like what do you look into?
Yeah. Sure, at the end of the day, I think we're all humans. That aspiration and aesthetic aside, we want to know if something really works or doesn't. I think to drive sales, like I said a bit earlier, it's important to separate your sale content from your awareness content. So that storytelling, that narrative, that I'm a part of something bigger and I'm a part of a movement. I think that comes in with your organic content. When it comes to your paid content, people want to know where they're spending their money and whether something works or not. A large part of India is still very much living paycheck to paycheck. Not all of us are very, have a lot of money in our accounts to just spend on whatever. So, for example, even if you take something that's non-beauty related, like instant coffee, what works better for me when I'm shopping a product like that is I can see a video where you show me that it's easy to blend in to make iced coffee also in the morning. I can make hot coffee and like a third latte of some sort with it, and that's it. Like it took me 60 seconds to make this coffee, and it'll make my morning routine easier. The organic way of showing that would be like, this very nice vlog of girls' night in, and then I'm like pouring coffee and I'm doing that, I'm talking to my girlfriend, and it's like, a lovely caption about like how girlfriends are important, which I believe in. But the first one is what will make me swipe and then buy it, right? So I think it's always important to also support your organic activities with paid. Affiliate marketing is one where even your normal buyer can be your brand spokesperson, right? So nowadays, a lot of people, you don't have to necessarily be approached by the brand. They have referral codes, they have affiliate codes. You and I can be the brand spokespersons as well. So it's important to not discount like your normal non-UGC, non-influencer audience as well.
And I think some brands have showcased that content.
Yes.
Some very good videos been created, so then they showcase it on their page on
absolutely, or even on their packaging or like the customer testimonials, because I mean, would you rather believe an
like
influencer?
they are reviewing the product, so in the photos, then you get, when you have the videos section, one of the video is actually some organically some influencer or
absolutely, because I mean, would you rather trust somebody who's saying to buy this online, or you'd rather trust me when I've said, I actually wore this blush through a workout class and it lasted,
and you have put content, like you are a content creator in that space, so there is no trust.
And a lot of the times, my friends, they buy things off of my recommendation, even though something else is trending, they'll be like, because you told me it works, I'm going to buy it. And that's what actually matters, right? So you can do that. People of course trust their actual best friends rather than influencers, right? That's a basic point of human psychology. So you can support your organic campaigns on like Google, Facebook, Instagram ads as well. I think most importantly, something that I notice is like you might be having a great campaign, but your basic checks are not done in place. By that I mean there are massive barriers to purchasing. This is something that I feel frustrated about even as a customer. So I've even seen sometimes there are ads and there are forwards that go out on WhatsApp where the website link is actually on the creative rather than the actual text message. Now you tell me, in today's day and age where time is money, am I going to sit and type out the website address, or am I going to move on to the next brand? To the next brand, right? Who's going to type that out? So you need to make use of Instagram, Facebook shopping. You need to have your coupon code in the ad itself. Don't go onto your website and see where your 50% off code is. Have it on the first hero banner. Reduce landing page times. A lot of the times pages are just stuck on landing, or you click on a certain link and I want to be taken to a product because I want to buy it. You'll take me to your entire landing page of all your products. Why? I've clicked on that one, right?
That's right.
So I think it's about also you might
That's
be doing
all
the
I
big
think
things.
on the space of e-commerce optimization, which is kind of within itself is like a job.
So your customer journey end to end needs to be looked at. You might be doing a fantastic campaign, but if you've put 5 barriers in me going and purchasing your lipstick, I'm not going to buy it. Simple as that.
That's why you're like, it's a complete user experience only that you have to review. For the, if you're selling anything on e-commerce. And, how do you have to just keep bettering it and make it kind of easier, and because customers, they come back to better experiences only. They're not, if they have some issue, they won't, nobody complains nowadays.
Exactly. Something else is like, you'll have, if I click on a product, it'll be add to cart. What I really like sometimes is just a buy now button, because I want to buy that thing and move on. I don't want to register and this and that. So that's another barrier to purchase as well. I know that helps your CRM database, but still.
That's right. That's right. Awesome. So largely, Khanak, like, what are we seeing going forward now? We have AR, we have VR, we have the metaverse, we have different ways, like, like these headsets also coming out. Like, I think just a few months back, Apple's headset was
Yeah.
launched. So, how do you feel like what the beauty industry is gonna do, to adapt to all these changes? A lot of things, AI is there, and also, what do you think going forward is there?
I think there's a lot happening. I think the advent of the internet has just sort of accelerated things by a lot, and I think
3.0 we are in now.
Yeah.
Web 3.0.
the points keep changing the more I look at them, right? So
That's it.
I think a lot changes, but there are certain things that remain constant, and those are some certain, I think, basic concepts. I would say, as somebody who works in beauty and fashion as well, this comes from fashion, you should be smart and know your basics, know your basic of human psychology, because a lot of the things that we've spoken about today, a lot of them are driven on basic psychology or purchase decisions, or why you want something that works rather than just aesthetics at the end of the day, for example.
And psychology of your TG, because that
Yeah.
also keeps changing with people's,
Absolutely.
with all these technology also.
Absolutely. So I think one is to be smart and know the trend cycle. No matter what comes and goes, of course the internet will help tweak certain things, but fashion follows a 20-year trend cycle, which means that every 20 years you'll have a resurgence of the same thing. So there's your Y2K, and there's your butterfly belts and your low waist jeans. A few years ago, high waist jeans were everything. Now everybody's wearing low waist jeans again. Why? Because we're in 2024. We've hit the trend cycle, right? Now we're going back to 2004. So another few years and we'll move back to grunge makeup, and another few years we'll move back to heavy makeup, and then another few years, like we did in 2020, in 2040 we'll be back to clean girl makeup. Fashion follows a trend cycle, and find out the trend cycle of your industry, because history repeats itself, right? There's a reason we study history, and that is because it repeats itself, and those who don't learn from history never learn. So do that, one. I think two, India is incredibly diverse. It can be a double-edged sword for a lot of marketers, because your target audience is just so expansive and big, but then also there is always somebody to buy your product, which is great. But remember that your customer knows this stuff thanks to the penetration of digital media everywhere. Don't go with that mentality of somebody being in a T3 and not knowing what a full coverage foundation is. They follow the same influences that you do. They know the ingredient list probably the same way that you do. So don't discount that, and know that your customer knows their stuff. I think there is a very big focus on marketing to Gen Zs. A lot of the time we forget that a lot of Gen Zs, their purchasing power is just starting, right? It's actually your cusps or your millennials who are buying the products, or people who are older, right? So don't forget that your millennials and your older generations also have influence, and it's not just the Gen Zs, because a lot of the
Like
purchase...
even guys are buying for girls also. That is also.
Yes, your target
The
audience
gifts and
might
all.
just end up being not somebody who's like that, but you get to them
Yeah.
through a different way, right? So pay attention to that intersection also between digital and in-store experiences, because the first cream that I used was a Pond's Gold cream, and there was no reason for it, there was no ad for it, there was no reason other than the fact that my mother uses it, right? And my mother is not somebody who's chronically online like me. My mom goes into stores and just looks at, oh, this is nice, I'll buy it. So give your in-store digital activations, like your, there are a lot of devices now that the brands have in store, like to match foundations, for example, or they'll have digital ads playing. So that's equally as important, because we forget that not everyone shops online. There are a lot of people who still like that experience of in-store, because some people are just not technologically forward, or just find it too much of a hassle. I know people.
And technology now is in the store, so you have these like mirrors also, mirrors where you are saying those are, I think obviously they are not mainstream, but that is where they are, because it's kind of easier to execute these things.
I think, like I talked about sustainability, it's not just a good to have anymore, that okay, you have a CSR aspect or a sustainability aspect, it's a must have now. Like I said, trend reports from WGS and Mintel, they do signal a shift towards that. Customer behavior, it's also moved more towards thrifting, clutter reduction, more minimalist, even luxury. It's minimalist luxury now, towards like low consumerism. So Instagram Trend Talk for 2024, the biggest trends in fashion are buying less new clothes, repeating outfits, thrifting, DIYing, shopping local, vintage, heirloom. This is what the current generation wants, and this is probably, these are our decisions or our purchase decisions that are now going to influence the next generation.
From the like even millionaires also are making
Yeah,
things now.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And now, because this is my thinking, now the next generation, this is the thinking that we'll influence them with, right? Even Pinterest predicts there's so many home-focused trends. Now it's not about going out and all that. It all signals that shift from outward to inward, authenticity, trust, doing more with what you have, basically doing more with less. I think it's important to keep up with trends, but like I said, don't discount the existing platforms. That's where a lot of your original customers, like my mom, came from. And then I think, like you said about the AI bit, that's a big one in beauty. So it's important to incorporate that, being able to, because beauty is just so personal, right? Being able to virtually try on things. You have foundation finders now in store. Now there are certain technologies that can tell you what your skin type is, and like how much sun damage you have in store. And then the sales assistant will be like, okay, so this is the percentage, why don't you buy this product because that's suited. Because I think
It's like
now,
even one example is like when we use Chat GTP or any kind of a
yeah,
chatting AI tool, we can say that okay, you can mention an occasion or what you want
or
to
you can
do,
say I want
and
the
they
tone to
will
be fun or conversational.
suggest you
Yeah,
the full look.
absolutely.
So,
It is all customized, and there
yeah.
were certain brands earlier that came out with the thing of promise of customization, but now with so many options, I think having customized products when it comes to like shade matches or formulas, it's now an expectation rather than like a little bonus that's added on. So I think it's
That's right.
important to keep that in mind as well. So, yeah.
Awesome. So I think we should wrap up now. I think it's been a great discussion here with you, Khanak.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So awesome. So just to wrap up, then, what do you feel like a youngster is looking to get into, the beauty industry, where some kind of a product or service of their own they can start. Like, what would an advice you would give them, or like how do you think today's digital age where everything is accessible,
Yeah.
all the information is out there, everything, all statistics is there. What is like say gaps in the market you can identify easily, but actually pulling it off, like what advice would you have for them?
I think when it comes to pulling anything off, you need firstly hard work and determination. Be consistent, be productive. You very rightly said that now anyone can do it. I think that is beautiful that you don't necessarily need to have a business degree now and angel investors to start your own little beauty brand on Instagram. But it doesn't hurt to know what you're talking about. It doesn't hurt to do a few business courses here and there, because I always feel that as an entrepreneur you should be able to read numbers, you should be able to build at least a basic strategy, you should be able to like basically do it on your own, because at first you might just end up being a one person show, right? I think your identity is as important as your brand. Do put some part of your identity in your brand. People, like I said, they want real people, real stories now, and it doesn't hurt to have a following of your own as well, right? So try to build that. Build a strong brand story or a narrative, tie it into a cause or a movement, show people what you're passionate about, because that's something that they want now. Identify gaps that definitely exist. They might be hard to identify, but always think back to what you felt as a customer. It could be something as simple as, I apply this and my hands get dirty. Oh my God, I wish there was a different way of packaging this product, right? That could be that one innovation that sets your brand apart. So always think from a customer's perspective first, and then an entrepreneur's. And I think be your own brand advocate. That's the strongest thing that you can do. Be your own brand advocate. Use your products proudly. Wear your clothes proudly. Involve real people. And by real people, I mean even your best friends. Have them in your campaigns. It doesn't hurt to have that. Use all the marketing tools that are at your disposal. And I think, like I said, just work hard and have fun with it.
That's right.
Yeah.
What does New India then have in the beauty space? What do they look at? Like we covered obviously things about sustainability, and also how technology, these major changes, like wearable technology and all, how it will be consumed. You are using content that has an influence on you, influence on seeing content creators, movies and all that. So what do you feel this new, like the Gen Z, like what are they looking at in that? That would be something like as a pointer for the person who's going to get in the business.
I think that really depends very much on your persona. I would not say that there's a specific thing that they're looking at. There are people who are like me, chronically online and very engaged with what an aesthetic is, and as working towards that aspirationally. I know people on a budget who just want products that work. and there are a lot of people in between as well who are okay with, you know, splurging a bit here and there on special occasions, but most of the time they want like something for 500 that they know is going to last a while. So I think as a larger trend, yes, all those trends that I mentioned about narratives and storytelling and sustainability, that's definitely changing. Aesthetics are definitely having a moment, but customers still very much differ, right? That's the beauty of having such a large audience base. So I think have that data and do that research on who your customer is, what they want, and anticipate what they want before they actually know that they want it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like with Make in India now, the brands that, like a very successful brand, I would say in say sports with Decathlon. Now, when you used to have those sports shoes or the a T-shirt for gym or something where something used to cost like 3,000, 4,000 Nike, Adidas, and Decathlon has now that same which is selling at 1,000 in stores everywhere, and it's developed a great branding. That's a great lesson, like
it's
how
a great lesson because I don't think they're trying to take away customers from Nike or Adidas because
right.
they know that they have certain people who are going to stick to that and are loyal to that brand. They are catering to the customers who want a T-shirt that's not going to rip in the gym, but that's still affordable, right?
But like we guys were spending on that Nike, and now we've shifted to many guys like within my group also. So there was a huge market, that aspiration to wear that fancy kind of gym shirt for that, or the sports shoes or any kind of different sports equipment with the highly MNC brands. It was kind of expensive. So that is, I think, a great kind of example where Make in India, when everything executed from India and marketed to New India, it really works out.
Sorry, and I just wanted to add one more point to my earlier bit that I was talking about in terms of identifying trends and gaps. I think it's very important to identify and keep an eye out for micro trends as well. We all know that a lot of the times there's a trickle down effect from your runways to what everybody's wearing, but I think a micro trend that's turned into a macro trend for me now, especially it's something like the color cherry cola. Now it's all over the runways in a lot of spring summer shows, right? But year and a half ago, I cut my hair off and I did get that exact cherry cola color done. And my stylist very offhandedly said, "Oh, you want to get that dark wine color done? Interesting." Now everybody's coming in and asking for that, and the both of us just brushed it off. And the next thing I know, the cherry cola is a thing. There's a cherry cola Lana Del Rey aesthetic. There is cherry cola lipsticks. There are cherry cola blushes. Clinique Black Honey is having a moment. Cherry colas all over the runways. Cherry cola heels are trending. So keep an eye out even in your everyday conversations, because actually that's where you'll understand a lot of the gaps or where the consumer mindset is also shifting. So a lot of micro trends can end up becoming your macro trends if you identify them at the right level.
That's right. Awesome. So thanks a lot, Khanak.
Thank you.
It's been an awesome podcast. And to the audience, please check out the MI podcast on all the major podcast networks. And also, please, you can subscribe to us. We are also on YouTube. So until the next time, I'll see you all. Take care.